Hello, and welcome to the House of Law. Tonight we begin with something quietly magical, something many of us have witnessed, but not always understood. A soft look from your dog as you speak, the slow blink of your cat when you call their name, the gentle ruffling of feathers when you read aloud to the bird in the corner. There is a world beneath the whiskers, where language, to our animal companions, means something more than just sound. Tonight, we explore, not with sharp facts or fast thoughts, but with a gentle curiosity. One that wants only to understand how animals meet our words, with their senses, their feelings, and perhaps, in their own way, their wonder. There's no need to rush. Not here. This is time to wind down. Before we go too far, I just want to thank you for being here with me. If what you hear helps you drift more easily into peace or brings warmth to your night, I gently invite you to like, subscribe, or share the House of Law. That helps me keep creating this quiet corner of calm. Now then, let's begin. Imagine this. A quiet room, still and familiar. You're speaking aloud, maybe reading a book, or talking to yourself in the comforting rhythm of routine. And there, your pet, watching, listening, blinking slowly. Are they understanding the words you say, or are they hearing something deeper? In this series, we'll walk softly through that question, because when we speak, we do more than make noise. We carry breath, rhythm, emotional waves laced into the tone of every sentence. And animals, domestic companions especially, have spent generations learning to read us, not just what we say, but how we say it, your tone when you call their name, the subtle lift in your voice when you're excited, or the hush when you're tired. Over time, they've learned to link those sounds to comfort, to affection, even to change. Some researchers believe dogs, for example, understand over 100 human words, but perhaps more poignant is how they understand intention. Not just content, but character. They recognize praise the way we say it. They recognize disappointment long before a frown finishes forming. Cats, often quieter, tune themselves to tone more than to vocabulary. Their ears moving, tails flicking, bodies speaking back in silent motion. They may not speak as we do, but their listening is deep. Tonight, we're not here to debate intelligence or test boundaries of science. Instead, we're here to rest in the soft idea that animals, especially those who share our homes, are not ignoring us. They are simply listening in their own way. Not with grammar or logic, but with the grace of attention, tuned to the vibrations of care. And when we pause, breathe, and speak gently back, we enter their world. Not a world of words, but of presence. Each moment of eye contact, each hum of a word said softly, it matters to them because it carries you. So as you lay back, sinking a little deeper into your pillow, or simply finding a soft stillness in your breath, remember, the ones who rest beside us with tails, feathers, or quiet paws may not know what we say, but they feel it. And perhaps, beneath the whiskers, beneath the fur and feather, they understand more than their silence shows. Let's rest in that thought, together, in this quiet space where curiosity doesn't seek an answer, it just wants to wonder. And wonder is a lovely place to drift from. Tonight, I'd like to talk with you about the language we share with our pets. It's a gentle sort of conversation, one that doesn't need to be spoken aloud for it to be understood. You see, animals don't rely on the meaning of our words the way we do. They live in the pauses, in the pacing, in the energy beneath our voices. When we speak to them, they aren't listening so much to the syllables themselves, but to something deeper, softer, older. Tone, rhythm, the felt sound of our joy, our worry, our calm. A dog might not know the word stays by dictionary definition, but hears in our voice the stillness we hope for. A cat doesn't memorize commands, yet senses the rise and fall of our tone and what it means. Animals have honed this listening for thousands of years, living alongside us, evolving with us. And it's not about training alone, it's how emotions travel just below the surface. Think of your voice when you're worried, how the edges tighten, how even a whisper carries your tension. Now, think of how your pet reacts. The ears that prick up, the tail that goes still, the gaze that lingers. They feel it. Not from the exact words, but from the charge behind them. Similarly, when you're calm, present, your voice smooths out, and your pets draw closer, more relaxed, more trusting. There's a kind of emotional resonance between us. A quiet, unspoken network of sensing. Dogs, cats, even birds and rabbits seem to respond to how we feel before they grasp what we say. And perhaps that's why, in moments when we feel alone, a pet curling up beside us says more than any sentence could. Comfort doesn't always need words. In this shared space between species, there's a soft exchange happening. Like waves brushing the sand, back and forth, without demands. This is why a gentle voice is soothing, even if the subject is mundane. And why even excited praise, if delivered with too much sharpness, can startle instead of reassure. They're always listening, not just to sound, but to feeling. And so, when we speak to them, we might think of it as more than communication. It's comfort, it's connection, it's presence, wrapped in sound. Our voices become their weather system, their sense of safety, or of tension, depending on the atmosphere we bring. And that's something we can shape, not through perfect phrases, but through gentle tones, calm energy, and slow pacing. Because in our shared language, the quiet kindness inside a voice says everything they need to hear. The world moves quietly at night. And in that quiet, you may begin to hear things you didn't notice during the day. Not just the wind or the rustle of trees, but the sleepy rhythm of your own voice and how much it carries. This story is about the soft language beneath our words, the tones, the rises and falls, the subtle shifts in how we speak. They're not just sounds, they're signals. Signals that ripple through the air, shaping the way others feel. Even animals, who don't know a single word, understand the melody in your voice. If you've ever noticed your dog wagging its tail when you talk in a cheerful tone, you felt this firsthand. You didn't need to say anything special. No treats in your pocket, no command to follow, just your tone. Playful, bright, inviting. And somehow, that was more than enough to send their body into motion. A thrilled wag of the tail, maybe a little wiggle of excitement. Why? Because dogs are natural listeners. Long before humans trained them with words, dogs had ears for emotion, And over thousands of years by our side, they've learned to read not just what we say, but how we say it. An excited voice means energy is coming their way. A happy pitch means affection might follow. Dogs listen for your melody more than you might imagine. Cats are more subtle. But they listen too. You may have noticed it. Those quiet moments when they curl beside you. Not because you called them, but because you seemed a little off. Maybe you didn't raise your voice or cry, but your tone shifted. Softer, slower, maybe a little lower around the edges. And your cat heard it. They come, not to comfort in a human way, but to share space beside you. Because they heard something beneath your words. A sadness, an ache, a change. And it's not just pets who understand these things. People from every culture, every language, can feel the emotion in a voice before they even know the words. A baby doesn't speak, and yet they calm to a soothing lullaby. Two strangers might not know each other's languages. And still, by listening closely to tone and pace, they'll guess which voice is angry, which is kind, and which feels unsure. The human voice is more than language. It's an instrument. And it plays, always. There's the rhythm of how we talk. The pauses, the emphasis we choose, and even more quietly, the tilt of our voices as they rise and fall. This is melody. Not with music, but with meaning formed in breath and sound. A question? It tends to rise at the end. A statement usually falls with firmness. Sometimes excitement climbs, while weariness dips into soft, low tones. You don't have to think about this, it happens naturally. Your voice dances with your feelings, even when your words don't say it out loud, and in that way, all of us carry a melody that others can feel. You've spoken it your whole life, in joy, in sorrow, in love, and laughter. It's why one word can mean so many things, depending on how you say it. Think of the word hello, said brightly. It's cheerful and alert, said slowly with a low breath. It could be concern. Even silence between syllables can shift the meaning. We hold power in this melody. And when we learn to hear it, in ourselves and in those around us, we discover entire stories hidden just beneath the sound. So tonight, as your breath softens and your thoughts begin to drift, I invite you to listen, not for words, but for the gentle tones of the world around you, and perhaps to your own, your voice, at rest. There's something quietly magical about routine, especially for the soft eyes and listening ears of our pets. It begins with a word, just a word, and yet it becomes a promise. You say it gently, maybe without thinking. A word like walk or treat. The tail twitches, slower first, then faster. Ears perk. And in that moment, they know. Language becomes pattern, and pattern becomes peace. To our pets, each sound we utter carries rhythm, and over time, meaning. It's not just what we say, but how we say it. A drawer opens, the one where the leash is kept, its creak memorized. Even before the word walk drifts through the room, they're ready. They've heard that sequence before, many times. The sound of a coat being taken from a hook, the jingle of keys, the rustle of a snack wrapper from the same corner of the counter, tiny details to us. But to them, they all mean something deeper. They mean safety. They mean time shared. They mean today will be okay. Repetition doesn't grow dull for a pet. It becomes its own kind of lullaby. They come to expect sunrise light peeking in through the curtains, followed by footsteps on the stairs. Then, perhaps, the smell of breakfast. Their world becomes peaceful because it's predictable. We humans seek adventure and change. But pets, they seek comfort in what stays the same. The faucet turning on in the morning, the quiet sound of a food bowl placed on tile, even the kind words we whisper without thinking, they all become their language of calm. And when the rhythm is broken, they often notice, before we do. Because for animals that live beside us, every gesture, every habit, every sound becomes a part of their story. A door squeaks, a light clicks off, a book closes on the nightstand. These sounds signal bedtime. And the weary pet, with a soft yawn, curls into their familiar spot, wrapped in a world that feels safe, because it repeats, because it makes sense. Sometimes, when the world outside changes too fast, helter-skelter, noisy and strange, inside, within the home, these little sounds mean everything. They carry reassurance. They echo love. You might look down and see those familiar eyes, watching you, not with worry, but with peace. Because the day followed its song, and all was well. It's easy to forget how much trust is built in something as simple as a routine. Pets don't ask for variety. They ask for poetry in repetition. And through it, they find not just structure, but sanctuary. A quiet clock ticking, footsteps in the hall, the same voice, the same smile, the same hands at the same time of evening. It all weaves a melody that says, "You are loved here. You are home. You are safe." And so they rest, peaceful, familiar, still. Hello, tonight, I'd like to drift with you into something, often overlooked, but always present, the delicate layers of scent and sound, and how they quietly weave together to create a language all their own. Let's start with a familiar companion, your pet. If you've ever had a dog or a cat, you might have noticed how they greet you after a long day. That tail wag, the gentle purr, but beneath those motions is something deeper. Your scent. To them, your smell is a signature, a presence. Sure, they hear your voice. They know the rhythm of your footsteps, the sound of your car pulling in, but scent is memory, emotion, recognition. It's as though your voice carries a scent trail. They understand, a warm fingerprint in the air. A dog, for instance, holds on to olfactory memories for much longer than we realize. A familiar sock left behind can offer comfort for weeks. It doesn't need your voice anymore. The scent alone tells a story. My old dog used to sit near the laundry bin and drift to sleep on a shirt I'd worn. Not because it smelled clean, but because it smelled like me. Every day you come home, your pet doesn't just hear the turning of the doorknob. They smell your hair product, drift in before you step inside. Your shoes carry the scent of grass, or maybe pavement, maybe coffee shops and office chairs. And somehow, they string it all together. Smell and sound, walking hand in hand. Cats, too, though quieter in their expressions, hold scent in very high regard. Your shampoo. The pillowcase you always sleep on. The soft blur of conditioner scent mingled with your quiet humming. These become the cues they rely on. A favorite sweater tossed over the edge of a couch picks up your scent, becomes a soft companion in your absence. So let's think for a moment about the stories told by ordinary things. A pair of worn-in slippers. To you, they mean comfort. To your dog, they hold the percussive rhythm of your movements, mingled with traces of shampoo and bath water from last night, and, perhaps, a breath of lavender from laundry detergent days ago. They don't just sniff it, they hear it, too, not with ears, but through a pattern they've built, day by day. The story of your socks might begin early in the morning. You slide them on, and in that moment, skin meets fabric, warmth presses in. As the day goes on, each step you take leaves a small trace. Socks whisper to the floor, collecting scent, sound, and motion. Once home again, they tell their tale in silence. To a dog, they are rich chapters. Your pace, your warmth, your sweat mixed with the scent of the road. Your cat brushes against them not by accident, but recognition. Everything you wear, every trace you leave behind, becomes part of this scented dialogue. A language crafted in layers. Not just by pitch and tone, but by familiarity, time, and the body's quiet imprint. Even your voice carries hints of you that animals notice. Not only the words, but the breath between them. If you speak gently, when you're calm, or quickly, when you're excited, your scent responds right along with it, shifting subtly. A touch warmer, spiced with adrenaline perhaps, or softened by sleep. And your pet learns this, not through training, but through time spent near you. They map the changes, and eventually, they know you through layers that words could never quite reach. So when you whisper their name, there's more than sound in the air. There's you, drifting softly around the edges, filling the space between silence and presence with something timeless and scented. The first time we say it, it might not mean much. Just a word, a vibration in the air, soft and gentle. But we say it again, and again, and again, and again, each time spoken with warmth, with care, with that familiar smile behind the sound. Good boy. In those moments, something quietly takes root. The word begins to glow, not just as a sound, but as a signal of joy, of approval, of being seen. An invisible thread begins to link that sound to safety, to affection, to delight. The magic of repetition is simple and slow, but immensely powerful. When we say it consistently, gently, over days and weeks, it becomes more than a word. It becomes a promise. A little note that says, yes, you did something right, and I see you. In the soft tone of good boy, there is no correction, no tension, only affirmation freely offered. And slowly, so slowly, the listener begins to light up in return. You see the ears perk, the tail flick, the eyes soften, not because there's a treat every time, but because, in those two words, there is connection. Like a familiar melody that always ends in the same warm note. Repetition teaches the meaning, but it also builds comfort. It provides a rhythm, calm and predictable. Over time, the phrase becomes its own kind of reward, not just for the listener, but for the one who speaks it too. We say it, and we feel gratitude echo back. And in that loop, an emotional bond deepens. You can feel the joy ripple outward just from a gentle, "Good boy." Because it isn't just about praise. It's about recognition, shared in peace. Moments where approval lives inside affection. When you witness a moment of success, big or small, and lift it gently with those two words, you honor what's good and kind in them and in yourself. This is the heart of reinforcement, not a bribe, not a bargain, but a signal of trust rooted in joy. A doorway to companionship where love communicates through tone. You speak, and what you say carries more than meaning. It carries feeling. One that says, "I trust you, I see your light, and I delight in it." Over time, just the sound is enough to reassure, to ground, and to bring peace. That's the comfort of the phrase. "Good boy," said slowly, softly, and with care, becomes a language of love. Something simple and entirely pure. It is less a command than a celebration. A sincere whisper to the soul of the one who listens. And they remember. Every time you speak it, the memory becomes stronger. Their heart responds faster, because that phrase has carried kindness over and over. It has been paired with soft touches, willing smiles, and calm companionship. So now, it lives in mutual emotion. It is not just a cue. It is a shared language of belonging. Some nights, I sit in the quiet hum of my old cottage and watch my cat blink, slowly, from across the room. She doesn't know what I'm saying, not in the way I do at least. But somehow, she knows what I mean, tonight. Let's move slowly through soft shadows of comprehension and gentle understandings that don't need grammar to exist. You've likely spoken to a pet before, said their name, asked a question, given a command. And maybe, just maybe, they responded, but not because they understood grammar or the structure of your sentence. To them, word order doesn't carry the same weight it does for humans. You might say, "Go outside," or "Outside, do you want to go?" And the reaction is the same. The tail perks. The ears tilt. The paws shift. They aren't passing verbs or subjects. They're listening for sound patterns, tone, and the consistency of your cues. For a dog, it's not the word walk that matters. It's how you've said it, when you've said it, and how you moved when you did. Their understanding is soft, fuzzy, like the warm shape of a blanket, without needing each thread set in place. Over time, pets develop a deep sensitivity to rhythm, tone, and familiarity. Commands become rituals, not because the grammar is right, but because the practice is consistent. "Come here. Here. Come! You come here now!" They all float into one amber glow, meaning built from repetition, not syntax. And then there's the way your body speaks, postures that tell their own story. A still hand, an open palm, eyes wide or relaxed. The forward lean of an eager step versus the slow sway of sleepy standing. Your pet is reading you, not through language, but through signals, non-verbal patterns, the silent grammar of companionship. Have you ever noticed how your voice matters more than your words? An upturned tone brings curiosity. A steady, gentle sound creates safety. A sharp command, rarely needed, is read more through pitch than message. In essence, what your pet truly understands isn't sentence structure, but structure in general. Patterns of speech, formed and reformed, like clouds that return the same shapes across different skies. They learn your rituals as much as your vocabulary. The sound of the kibble bin, the rustle of a leash, the creak of the chair you always sit in before bed. These are the cues that matter. The grammar of days, spaced calmly between naps, play, food, and you. Some say animals live only in the present, but maybe they live deeper in the pattern of presence, the rhythm of you being there. And this is where the fuzzy grammar comes in. Not letters, not language, but loops and pauses, silences between calls, movements between gestures, and a feeling, deep in their furred or feathered hearts, that they are home, whenever those patterns appear again. So tonight, let's give in to those softer kinds of structure, the kind you don't have to think about, the kind your pet already knows, curling quietly next to you, a non-verbal sentence that simply means, I am here. You are safe. Have you ever noticed the way a pet responds when you speak, not just with their ears, but with the whole of their body? They don't talk back with words, yet still they reply. Through tails, eyes, and tiny shifts in posture. A dog's tail, for instance, is like a soft-spoken translator of feeling. When you call their name in a warm tone, the tail might rise and sway, not wildly, but with a slow, hopeful rhythm. A thoughtful hello in their own quiet way. When a tail wags wide and loose, hips swaying, it often means comfort, openness, a readiness to connect with the moment. But if that same tail stiffens, just slightly, it may signal pause or uncertainty. Not fear, just a need for more time. Even the position of the tail tells a story. Held high, it can speak of excitement or alert curiosity. Held low, a sign of peace, or calm acceptance. Each lift and fall, a sentence in this hush-hush dialect that animals know. Now think of a cat, and the tail becomes something else entirely. It moves less like a flag and more like a paintbrush, drawing smooth lines in the air. A slow swish side to side might be a conversation in waiting. Curiosity tinged with watchfulness. If you speak softly to them, and their tail curls around their body, it's a quiet sign of contentment, a private way of saying, stay, I'm comfortable with you. Ears, too, are always listening, always translating our voice. Dogs will often tilt their heads, a movement that could be puzzlement, or attention, or both. A slight angle, a frozen stillness, like they're reading the feeling behind your every syllable. And cats. Oh, their ears are finely tuned instruments. One twitch, then another, even when they seem asleep. A single phrase from you, and their ears shift toward the sound, not always reacting outwardly, but inwardly. They notice. They always notice. Eyes. Now that's where animals hold a more subtle dialogue. It's not just about seeing. It's about understanding. A cat's slow blink, for example, is not just a blink. It's communication. An offering of trust sent in slow motion. When you blink back, just as slowly, it's like you're saying, yes, I feel safe with you too. Dogs express it differently. their gaze often unwavering, looking into your eyes not to challenge, but to connect, to share space and time. When you speak gently, their eyes soften, eyelids loosen, brows lift just a little, and sometimes their eyes close halfway, as though the sound of your voice is something they can rest in. And there are sounds they make in return. The low sigh of a dog lying near your feet is more than just an exhale. It's comfort, wrapped in breath. Cats, too, have their murmurs. The faint trill, the whispered purr, a soft meow barely meant for the air, all in answer to the sounds we offer them. It's a quiet symphony, our voice and their body language echoing one another in tiny ways. So the next time you speak with a pet, not at them, but with them, watch their tail, their ears, their eyes. You may begin to notice replies you hadn't heard before. Tiny affirmations, carried not on words, but through fur and breath, in a language waiting only for stillness to be understood. In the stillness of early morning, before the day fully stirs, there's a quiet kind of conversation happening, one that doesn't need words. Soft sounds fill the corners of cozy rooms, the gentle coo of a dove, the rustle of hay as a bunny stirs, or the brief, quivering peep of a guinea pig testing the air. Small animals, creatures of fluff and feather, are deeply sensitive to sound, not just noise, but tone, timbre, and the unspoken feeling behind each note. It's a language we often overlook, yet they hear it all. Guinea pigs, for instance. Their world is a theatre of subtle intonations. A familiar voice spoken with softness tells them everything is safe. A higher pitch, a burst of enthusiasm gets their attention, like a bell calling for treats. But it's the quiet voices they respond to most. Low tones, slow rhythms, the soft beat of a kind presence. These calm their tiny hearts. They chirr or purr, melodies made for bonding. Bunnies, too, are finely tuned listeners. When you speak in hushed tones near them, your breath slow, your voice easy and low, they lean into it, feel it more than just hear it. They read not just the sound, but the shape of it. A voice that hesitates, or one that smiles between syllables, tells them more than we'll ever know. And the birds, the birds, they live in a world of music. Every morning, they announce the dawn with cascades of notes, not random, not loud, but delicate, patterned greetings. When we respond gently, echoing with whistles or quiet words, they listen. Sometimes, they even answer. To them, tone is emotion. A rising trill may mean excitement. A coo, reassurance. A silence, peace. Small animals don't need to understand language to hear meaning. They hear it in the way sound moves, like ripples on water. A sharp tone sends a bunny into hiding. A quick clang might startle a guinea pig into a sudden sprint. But hush your tone, slow it, give it weight and warmth, and they stay. They listen. The music of companionship is soft, like lullabies shared under blankets. It's in the hums we don't notice we're humming, and in how we say their names without urgency. I found that speaking with kindness, at the right rhythm, becomes its own kind of bond. No need for perfect words. Just the tone, just the rhythm. Like a song only they understand. So next time, whether brushing a bunny's ear or cradling a gentle-cheeked piggy, speak softly. Let your voice be calm. Let it say, without saying, that all is well. Because they do listen. And sometimes they answer, not in words, of course, but in presence, in stillness, in a tiny, contented sigh from whiskered lips that speak in silence. The house is still now. Somewhere in its quiet corners, a soft sound stirs, a meow, not quite a cry, not entirely a request, something between recognition and invitation. This is the voice of a companion who lives by their own rhythm, yet watches ours so very closely. I want to spend a little time with this gentle language, the meow. I find that thought restful, that in the hush of night, beyond words and obligation, there are still beings who speak, in sounds shaped only for us, created not for survival, but connection, and in their soft expressions we find a kind of comfort. The meow floats through the darkened hall, not disturbing the stillness, but deepening it. A voice in the quiet that speaks to the home itself. Let it settle over you now, as gently as a cat curling into sleep, and we will rest together. In the soft language of the night, there's a quiet magic, a slow lean to one side, ears perked, eyes wide, as if the world has slid slightly out of view, and they are working to understand it just a little better. Maybe you've seen it, standing in your kitchen. A word escapes your lips, walk, and there it is, that soft, curious tilt. It's not just adorable, though, yes, it is quite endearing. It's also deeply meaningful, because dogs, in their own quiet way, are listening closely. They are thinking, processing, and most of all, trying to understand you. You see, this isn't simply a reflex or a playful motion. Dogs, much like people, concentrate when the world becomes a little unclear. Tilting their heads helps them locate the source of a sound, or observe a change in your tone, your expression, your body language. It's a way of gathering clues, putting together a picture so they can catch the heart of your message. What fascinates me is that research shows dogs remember certain words, yes, up to hundreds in some cases. But they don't rely on words alone, not like we do. They're attuned to far more subtle things, like the pitch of your voice, the rise or fall of a sentence, the difference between cheerful excitement and urgent worry. A tilted head is concentration, yes, but also curiosity, a moment of connection, reaching across species, looking not just at what you said, but what you meant. Dogs, in their simple, beautiful way, want to be in sync with you, not just to respond, but to relate. They are social animals, deeply social, and their bond with humans is rooted in communication, emotional awareness, participation. So when you say a word they know, or even a word they almost recognize, they may tilt their head, lean in, and try to find a place for that sound in the world they share with you. Some dogs do it more than others, just like people focus in different ways. But often, dogs that tilt their heads frequently also test better at picking out specific words. They're clearly listening, not just hearing. It's thought that some dogs may be adjusting to see past their own muzzle, trying to read expressions more clearly. Others may be tuning in to sound direction, refining their sense of location and tone. And some may have learned that when they do it, they get a warm response. A smile, a laugh, a gentle word. So the gesture becomes not only concentration, but conversation. That possibility, that dogs not only want to understand, but want to be understood, brings a sense of quiet wonder. They tilt their head, as if to ask, "Is this what you meant?" And even when they're not certain, they stay near, present, ready to try again. So the next time you speak, and your dog gazes up, tilts just slightly, with ears forward, know that this is more than a behavior. It's a bridge, made not of words alone, but intention. They're not just hearing sound, they're reaching for meaning. And in doing so, they're reaching for you. Slowly, gently, faithfully. The same way they always have, the same way they always will. The night is quiet now. Stillness blankets the room, like a feather settling after a long drift through the sky. In this calm, we turn our attention to birds. More than just singers of dawn or wanderers of the wind, some birds listen closely, and, stranger still, they speak. Parrots, of course, are famous for it. Not just colorful and clever, but surprisingly attuned to the sounds we make. In the company of humans, parrots mimic words, repeat names, even laugh when we laugh. But what's fascinating is not just what they say, it's what those sounds mean to them. You see, parrots don't speak in language the way we intend it. They echo sound, tone, rhythm, melody. A parrot might not know what a name means, but they remember how it feels to hear it. Say a name with joy, and they'll repeat it with a bounce. Say it in frustration, and you may hear that same note of sharpness repeated back to you on another day. They're not just copying, they're reflecting. Mirroring not just words, but emotion, energy, presence. It's no wonder that some owners feel deeply connected to their birds, as if the shared sounds become a shared world. But parrots aren't the only ones. Mockingbirds join in the chorus too, blending the world around them into song. A car alarm, another bird's tune, a dog's bark, all a fair game, woven into refrains that change with the wind, in the soft hours of morning, or under the hush of dusk. These songs become stories, not in human words, but in the vocabulary of experience. Tone matters more than meaning. Pacing, rhythm, emotion wrapped in air. That's why a bird, raised in a calm home, may sound calm in return, and one raised in turmoil may echo stress in its notes. They are, in many ways, a vocal portrait of their surroundings. Creatures bound not just by instinct, but by sound. Learning not simply through repetition, but through immersion. Some researchers believe that this ability, this mimicry, once served an evolutionary role, helping birds bond, integrate, stay safe among other species. Today, it becomes an echo of our own lives. Tiny windows back at us, through feathers and song. Late at night, perhaps you've heard it. A voice you didn't expect. Spoken not by person, but by parrot. A bedtime whisper, once said in passing, now looped forever in gentle echoes. It almost feels like memory, doesn't it? A whisper that was yours, gifted to the room, caught by a creature who listens. And whenever they sing it back, it's a reminder. That language isn't only ours, that even as we settle for sleep, somewhere across the quiet house, a voice repeats, not with understanding, but with presence. A shared silence, turned into sound. Let us rest with that thought. Not alone, not quite, but gently held in echoes and whispers and birdsong. There are moments, quiet, simple moments, when words slip away, and in their place, something older and softer takes their role. A slow blink from a cat stretched in the sun, a high tail curling in greeting, the warm weight of a dog leaning gently against your leg, no commands, no fuss. These are conversations without words. In this part of our story, we rest within those quiet exchanges, the unspoken understandings between a human and a pet. Touch is often the first language we share. Before names are learned, before any calls or commands, there is the gentle motion of a hand meeting fur. No training yet, just warmth joined with trust. Dogs press their heads into an open palm. They know when the world is still, and that moment is meant for calm. Cats might nudge softly at your fingers, asking, but not demanding. Even birds, small and feather-light, come to perch when the air is right, and your heartbeat echoes in rhythm with their own. Then there is gaze. Not a stare, not pressure, but the kind of look that lingers, that welcomes, without needing anything in return. A sustained glance between eyes, human and animal, can become a silent bridge. Dogs may hold your gaze to read your emotions, to feel the shape of your mood. Cats often blink slowly. If you return the blink, it's like saying, I see you and I am not a threat. Our bodies speak too. You might not notice, but your posture tells a story every day. When you're upright and brisk, your pet might expect movement, errands, the flow of routine. But when you sit, shoulders lowered, breathing deeper, your stillness signals something. It shows that it's time to rest. Pets learn these unspoken things quickly. They watch not what you say, but what you do. They notice tone not only in voice, but in step, in sigh, in how you reach for your cup, or pause by the window. With time, they learn how your mornings begin. When your sweater comes off the hook, when your hand rests on your keys. They know, long before you speak, whether you'll be staying nearby or leaving for a while. Sometimes, silence itself is the comfort. The hush of sharing space together, just breathing near one another, with no need to speak. A dog laying at your feet as you read. A cat curled in the edge of your blanket. You may sigh, and they shift slightly, as though saying, I hear you, I'm here too. These little rituals, they grow over time. And before long, you've built a whole language together, bound not in words, but in rhythms and stillness and care. So next time your pet sits beside you, says nothing, just watches. Take a breath and say nothing back. Let them speak in the way they always have, with presence, with patience, and with peace. Hello again. Let's settle into something gentle tonight, a quiet wondering about how our pets hear us, not just the sounds, but the meaning behind them. There's a soft mystery in how animals, especially our pets, sort through the maze of human noises. Sometimes, our voices offer comfort, reassurance, love. But other times, even without realizing it, we send out puzzles they can't quite solve. It begins with tone, a cheerful pitch when calling them over, a firmer sound when asking them not to chew the furniture. But then, maybe we smile when we sound stern, or giggle while scolding softly, and that is confusing. For a pet whose world is shaped more by feeling than words, these mixed messages can be hard to read. The words themselves matter less than how they're wrapped in a melody of mood. Imagine saying no while laughing. To a pet, the tone says playtime, but the word says stop. The result is hesitation. They tilt their heads, they watch, they wait, trying to find truth in the rhythm of your voice, not in the syllables. Not in the syllables. This puzzle of sound becomes part of their learning, their daily decoding. They rely on patterns and consistency. When the tone matches the action, they feel secure. But when it doesn't, something shifts. A hand reaches out, voice calm, but shoulders tense. To us, it might feel loving. To them, it might feel uncertain. They sense the contrast more than we expect, mood and sound moving in different directions. In moments like this, your pet may pause before responding, heart tuned more to emotional rhythm than vocabulary. Over time, they begin to learn who you are, beyond language. Not just what you say, but how you feel when you say it. The gentle echo of your presence, present in every inflection, every pause. The voice becomes familiar, safe, when it flows with clarity and feeling. Even silence between words can convey comfort. When mixed messages appear, most pets default to a quiet trust. They read your mood more than any reason you explain. They know when you're frustrated, even if you coo their name with soft affection. They sense joy, even when you're lost for words. It's a kind of wisdom they hold that doesn't cling to language. Instead, they listen with their hearts. Their world is not built on words, but connection. A connection crafted gently through tone, rhythm, and feeling. It is not always perfect, but it is always honest. So tonight, as you rest, think of the quiet puzzle your pet solves each day, the way they stitch together the pieces of your tone to find you. And even when the words waver, they stay close, following the sound of your presence, rather than your speech. In their eyes, you are always speaking, even in silence. So breathe softly now, and know they understand more than you say, much more. And in that understanding is their love. Endless, uncomplicated, true. Your face tells stories, even before a single word is spoken. To your pet, it's a living, breathing book. Each smile, frown, or furrowed brow, a page they've learned to read by heart. They study you, not with a scientist's scrutiny, but with quiet love. Every twitch of your mouth, every blink, carries meaning. To a dog or a cat, the lift at the corner of your lips isn't just a smile. It's reassurance, safety, home. Your face becomes a lighthouse that they can return to again and again. Have you noticed how a dog mirrors your mood? Simply by watching your eyes? Noticing when they soften, or widen, or fill with curiosity, or how a cat, seemingly aloof, still watches you closely from the edge of the room, reading you like a slow-moving poem. Our eyes are the truest windows. When you hold your pet's gaze, and they hold yours, something happens there. A warmth, a wordless connection. There's no rush in that kind of looking, just a shared stillness. A moment of, I see you, and you see me. A dog may tilt their head, sensing a shift in your expression. Is that a laugh? Or did something worry you? They lean in, ears turning like little antennae, measuring your face for answers. Cats might blink slowly, and if you blink gently back, you'll see it, that calm exchange. A sign of trust, born not from command, but comfort. When you smile, something softens in your cheeks, your jaw relaxes, the tightness in your forehead fades, and your pets see this. They feel it. A smile tells them the world is calm, that they're safe beside you, that this moment is okay. But not all smiles look the same to them. A forced grin, wide but tense, may confuse a pet. Some dogs may back away, unsure if it's joy or something else. That's why stillness matters. A genuine moment, shared without performance, is more meaningful. A slow look, a soft expression, may say more than a string of words ever could. Have you ever noticed how your pet draws closer when you cry? When your voice falters or falls quiet? They read those signs too. Not as humans would, but with their own sense, tuned finely to your face, your tone, the shape of your breath. They nestle beside you, not necessarily to fix anything, but to be with you. Present, close, close. That closeness, their willingness to simply be near, is part of this silent conversation. A way of saying, I see you, and I want to be near what I see. Some animals stare with great love, others with fleeting glances. A bunny may look up at you mostly with ears and subtle movements. A bird may tilt its head, one eye assessing gently. But even they watch, because your face is their compass. Not every expression means the same to every creature, but with time, they learn yours, the ones unique to you, your language of lips and brows and blinking eyes, and you learn theirs. This mutual reading, this mutual watching, becomes a kind of dance. Not choreographed, just felt, quiet and noble. It's why lying beside your pet in the calm of the evening, when neither of you speaks, feels like the world is whole for a moment. There isn't always a need for movement. Sometimes just the presence of a face they know is enough. Enough to bring peace when the house settles for the night. Enough to bring sleep. In that subtle world of expression where words disappear, there, your face becomes the story they love most. And they become part of your own storybook too. Hello again. Thank you for being here, in this quiet place where stories gently unfold. Tonight, we listen to the quiet strength of softness, and how something as simple as a kind voice can echo into the heart of another being. Let's take our time together, exploring the bond between us and our companions, our pets, who share our homes and sometimes our very souls. There's a magic in the way we speak to them, a gentle rhythm, a softened tone, as if instinctively we know to slow down, lowering our voices, not in a whisper of fear, but in the lull of comfort. You've probably noticed it too. That moment when your voice falls to a soft hum, calling your dog in from the yard, or greeting your sleepy cat in the sunlit morning. That tone, lower, warmer, naturally calming, it carries no threat, no demand. Just presence. Pets tune into that more than we often realize. In the wild, higher tones may signal excitement, alarm, or tension. But when our voices deepen, they fall into a safe space, one free of urgency. It becomes a kind of anchor, a voice they can return to again and again, a sound that means everything is all right. Think back to the first time you held them. Maybe they were tiny, uncertain, in a world that smelled unfamiliar. But they heard your voice, soft and curious, not loud, not demanding, just kind. That very first impression leaves a trace. Our companions remember much more than we think. Dogs, with their incredible memory for tones. Cats, with their subtle listening. Even birds, rabbits, and older, quieter animals, they learn to lean into kindness through repetition. That voice, your voice, can become a steady ocean in their mind, a familiar tide, returning again and again. Each time we soothe, we strengthen the bond, not just when they're young, but over years, decades even. In times of illness or aging paws that hesitate at the stairs, a gentle word can be more effective than any medicine. It's the reassurance of home. In your softness, they find safety. Small phrases said quietly. It's okay. Good girl. I'm here. Each syllable becomes a blanket, woven with trust. You don't need grand speeches, just gentle presence, because the voice of kindness doesn't shout, doesn't demand, it waits, it listens, it encourages. Your tone becomes a place. They live. A soundscape of companionship. Their ears may fail in old age, but many still tilt their heads toward the shape of your voice, not just for the sound, but for the feeling it brings. And so, speaking gently becomes more than communication. It becomes a ritual of love, a soft way of saying, I see you, I care. It doesn't only work with animals. But in the house of law, we stay close to stories of connection. And tonight, this story belongs to the quiet magic shared between species, that place where gentleness builds bridges. And over time, the closed spaces become open. The shy glance becomes a soft look, and a name whispered in kindness becomes the music of their world. Rest easy now. Let kindness be the last thing you hear before sleep. It lingers and listens. Long after the words fade, and maybe, as dreams arrive, you'll hear your own name somewhere in the soft distance. Spoken with calm, spoken with love, just as you've given it to others. In your voice of kindness, the day has drawn its edges, gently folding into a quiet hush. Lights dim, voices soften, and the rhythm of the home shifts, slowly, into something gentler. It's this calm, this softness, that our pets seem to recognize, long before we even speak a word. In homes across the world, there is an unspoken understanding that drifts between people and their furry companions. A certain look, a change in footstep, a softer presence in the room. These things tell them that night is near. You and I might just be turning off the last lamp, or folding a blanket across the couch. But, to a pet, these become clear bedtime signals. Cats will often begin to circle their chosen nook, stretching lazily, tail flicking once or twice. Dogs might glance toward the stairs or wander to their bed in quiet expectation. Even the sound of slippers sliding across the floor can be a cue, one that tells them it's time to settle. For many pets, it's a series of sounds that signal serenity, the clink of a water glass set down, the closing of a book, the long breath you take before the lights go out. Through these daily rituals, our pets learn the language of rest. And beyond the sounds, there is the energy of the household itself. It shifts from activity to stillness, from voices to hush. That slowing becomes a kind of lullaby, and still there are words our pets come to know. Time for bed, come lie down, or perhaps just a whisper of their name, said in that certain way that only they understand. Simple phrases, repeated gently over time, become cues rooted in comfort. They don't need commands or timetables. They look to your presence, your tone, the softness in your gestures. Each night, as you move through the final minutes of the day, they're watching and following. Many pets won't rest, not truly, until you do. It's part of their rhythm. To settle when you settle. To breathe with you as the night lengthens. Perhaps a cat curls up at your feet. A dog lowers its head onto the floor beside your bed, or you feel their warmth just there, close enough to hear them sigh. There is something soothing in that, to know that rest is not lonely, that sleep is shared. Between you and the creature who has learned your quietest language. So when the house slows down and the last lights fade, when words are few and every sound is soft, that's when the signals speak loudest, and the night begins in earnest for both of you. Even in sleep, the bonds we build with those who walk on paws or curl with feathers do not disappear. A dog nestled at your feet, or a cat on the windowsill by your bed, their dreams may be quieter than ours, yet they hold a world all their own. Scientists, gently watching the slumber of animals through soft glows of monitors, have caught glimpses of something remarkable. They've seen eye movements under closed lids, little muscle twitches, the same patterns we recognize in human dreams. A rat, dreaming after running a maze, showed the same brain patterns in sleep as when it darted at full speed in waking life, as if it were reliving every turn again. But what about the sounds of your home, the hum of your voice, your laughter, even your whisper of good night? There's reason to believe that the animals we live beside carry those moments into sleep too. A dog may dream of the rustle of your sheets, the tap of your slippers in the hallway. When you speak, their ears shift, even in slumber. The rhythms of your voice are known to them. To a parrot, singing out from its perch, your voice might be the first melody it learned to rest beside. To a rabbit, your quiet footsteps may echo in its dreams, a soft signal that all is well. These sounds, familiar and close, seem to soothe their bodies into deeper rest. Much the way the scent of home comforts us, your voice is their lullaby. The timbre of it, the way it rises and falls with time. When you speak quietly near a dozing pet, their breathing might slow, their bodies relax just a little more. Dreams may begin with moments like that. A curled cat, remembering the softness of your lap, or a bird, warming on its perch in rhythm with your calm routines. Not all dreams are like ours, not fully stories, but perhaps echoes. Light echoes of sound and place, of trust and closeness. And in those echoes, they find a kind of peace. People often wonder if their pets miss them when they're asleep. The curiosity is gentle and kind-hearted. and perhaps answered by time. Because as science watches their sleeping brains with care, we keep finding signs that memory, emotion, and daily presence drift softly through their dreams, and the comfort of your voice, like a favorite blanket or well-worn spot on the couch, likely follows them in. In the still hours, beneath flicking whiskers or twitchy paws, they may be dreaming of you, not with words, but with feeling. A tone they recognize, a pattern they rely on, the quietness of you speaking with love. And as they snooze beside your chair, or by the foot of your bed, it's likely they feel safe. Safe enough to dream. Safe enough to let go. Just as the voice of a loved one can ease our thoughts toward sleep, your presence, your sound, becomes a gentle road their minds walk upon. So tonight, as the lights dim, and they find their place, know this, even as they close their eyes, their dreams may begin with you. Not in grand ways, not in words, just in the way they know you're near, and in that, there is peace. There is a sound, more familiar than footsteps on the porch, or the quiet creak of the front door as it opens. More comforting than the rustle of blankets as the night settles near. It's your voice, yours alone. To your pet, it carries the warmth of 1,000 mornings, the ease of every gentle hello you've ever offered, every soft good night, and every laugh that skipped across the room. They know it instantly, even in a crowd, even behind walls, even through sleep. Your voice holds space in their world, deeper than scent, more resilient than sight. It is the sound of safety, the shape of home. Perhaps you've noticed the way their head tilts, just slightly, when you speak their name, or the way their tail begins its quiet dance before your footsteps have finished approaching. Even if you're quiet, even if you've only whispered, they know it's you. Over time, ever so gently, a bond forms from the smallest moments, not grand speeches or special commands, just your words woven into the days. Little greetings in the morning, tiny questions asked out loud, maybe even stories you read aloud when no one else was listening, but they were. They were always listening, in a world built mostly from scent and motion. Your voice is their melody, the cadence they memorize, the lullaby they answer. And over the years, it becomes something more. Not just a sound they recognize, but a feeling they trust. Their ears may not understand every word, but they hear your intention. They hear your heart, folded into the rhythm of your tone. Even silence holds meaning when shared with someone who knows your voice. Isn't it remarkable that without needing to speak their language, we still build a vocabulary together? A shared understanding, grown one word at a time, one quiet evening at a time. You speak, and they feel known, called back into comfort. You could leave the room and speak from down the hallway, and they'd follow with no hesitation. Not from obedience, but from knowing you. Because your voice isn't just a sound to them, it's a thread connecting them to their place in the world. A North Star that tells them they're no longer alone. They know your voice like they know the sun through the window, like they know the sound of the food bowl being filled or the rustling of their favorite toy. But yours is different. Yours does more than promise treats or play. It promises presence. Even as you read now, even now, as your pet lies beside you or waits nearby, if you were to speak, just softly, they would know. They would lift their head from sleep or open a lazy eye and listen. Because to them, You are a world wrapped in one sound, a voice they know by heart. The light in the room softens now. A hush settles across the walls, as if the space itself is getting ready for rest. You may hear only the quietest sounds, a small breath, a sigh, maybe the gentle sweep of a tail brushing against the floor. This is the hour of shared stillness. There is a peace that only comes from being together in silence, when the world no longer needs words, and presence alone is enough. When you are near your pet, curled next to you or resting just at the edge of the bed, there is a warm, unspoken comfort. They need no ceremony, no explanation. They know your rhythms, and you know theirs. They nudge the covers aside to settle close, or find their favorite spot and give a soft, satisfied huff. Some may purr, others may snore. Some will press their weight gently against your legs as if grounding you to the earth itself. In these last minutes before sleep, the day finally breathes its last, and the night wraps you in silence. You might find yourself whispering a good night, maybe more to yourself than to them, but they always hear it, and in their way, they always answer. A flick of the ear, a slow blink, a quiet tail tap like a heartbeat against the carpet. These tiny things, they hold the vastness of love. Because love lives not only in grand gestures, but in little patterns, shared every night, over and over, the ritual of bedtime. A soft pat on the bed, an invitation, a sleepy stretch, the click of toenails on the floor, or the soft shuffle of paws against fabric. They circle once, then twice, crafting their nest beside you. And then, they're still. The bond between human and animal is ancient, quiet, and filled with trust. They stay because this, together, is home. Sometimes you might wonder what they dream about. Fields to run in, warm laps, a favorite toy never far away. And perhaps they wonder the same about you. Both of you drifting, side by side, sailing slow into sleep's open sea. It's the kind of companionship that asks for nothing and gives everything. No questions, no conditions. Just being, together. Your breath slows. Their breath does too. Almost like you're tethered, gently, to the same current. Outside, the world turns onward, but within these walls and these sheets, time stretches. The day no longer matters. There is only the night, and the quiet souls who rest within it. Good night from your side of the world, and good night from theirs.